Welcome everybody. Namaskara. Thank you for coming on a Friday evening. All of us must be slightly crazy to be coming on a Friday evening for this kind of thing, no? So I really appreciate that. It's a holiday, even bigger thing to celebrate. Oh, hi Naresh. Come. So just to, earlier sir was saying you were asking me to have coffee, tea, so that you want us to wake up before the talk. I said, so I thought I'll wake you up by asking, putting out a quiz here. How many came by public transport? All right, nice. That's a good model share of our city. Thank you. Okay. How many buses are there in Bangalore? 6,000. Not enough, not enough, not enough, not enough. What's the population of Bengaluru? Depending on who you ask, right? The last census was in 2011, so 1.2 to 1.5, this is the range that we keep getting. That's the population. And how many people use car? How many people use bus every day in Bangalore? Any idea?
About 27 lakhs.
27. So there is this thing about trips per day, right? Bengaluru has roughly 1 crore trips per day, right? So 27 lakh of those trips. A trip is something you go from A to B. If you go from B to A, it's another trip. So like that, it's 27% of all trips are bus. Fair enough? How many trips are with car? Take a guess, wild guess. Okay, how many cars are there in Bengaluru? 6,500 buses? How many cars? Put a number to it. 5 lakhs? Or number of private vehicles in this city? 1.1 crore. More than the adult population of the city. Right? We have more machines than people. Congratulations everyone, including me. Out of which 75 lakhs are two-wheelers. So the rest are four-wheelers. 75 lakhs is two-wheelers. Any idea how many new vehicles get added to our city every single day? Between 2,000 to 2,500. Dr. Salim was here downstairs maybe 2 weeks ago, Ravi, and he was giving out these numbers. Ravi was talking to Dr. Salim. 2,000 to 2,500. We reached the pre-pandemic levels, including two. Most of them are two-wheelers. But again, the split. So, 80-20. Percentage of car trips per day? You know the number of vehicles, but in terms of trips? 7%. 7% of all trips in Bengaluru are by car. That doesn't reflect in the budget allocated to roads or car infrastructure as such, but that's the number that we have. It's the fastest growing segment also.
Do you have any data on pre-metro and now?
Metro is about 4.5 lakhs per day right now. Bus is about 36 lakhs per day trips according to BMTC. The peak of bus was about 50 lakhs per day. Now we are at 3.6 million or 36 lakhs. So with Colombians around, we have to switch between lakhs, crores and millions. So I'll be doing that. He's thoroughly confused him last few days. Also bicycles and bikes. When we say bikes, we mean something. When he says bikes, he means something else. So let me introduce our guest today, Felipe. So he's one of those Mannina Maga, like Appaji. So he's born and brought up in Bogotá, Colombia. He went to school there, college there, civil engineering he studied in the college, University of Colombia. Then for masters, he went to the LSE, London School of Economics in urban planning, went back to Bogotá and worked in engineering field for a few years before he got inspired by Enrique Peglossia, the famous mayor of Colombia, who said the country is developed when the rich travel by the public transport, right? That we all have heard that. So he started working with him back in the day and rose through the ranks and eventually became the CEO of the Transmillennia, which is the BMTC equivalent of Bogotá. You'll hear more about what that means. And then, even more interesting for me, after that stint as the head of that organization, he became the Secretary of Mobility of City of Bogotá. That is, in Colombia, the urban city government has a cabinet. The mayor has cabinet, secretary for women, secretary for children, secretary for mobility. So that was his last role, and that roughly equivalent to our BMLTA. And yesterday he had an opportunity to meet with the Dalt Commissioner and BMLTA head, Manjula ma'am, and we discussed how that differs between the countries. Recently, as in 6 months ago, Felipe has joined WRI, the organization that I work for, World Resources Institute. Is based in, headquartered in Washington, D.C., but operates in about 25 countries. WRI, as many of you are familiar with, is also a 10-year-old in India, WRI India. We work on mobility, climate action, forest, water, many of these things. So after joining WRI, Felipe has been on a global tour. He's been in Africa and Asia, and this is his first visit to Bengaluru. And on his visit, he's been to Mumbai, Ahmedabad, and now in Bengaluru for 4 days, 2 more days here before he heads to Delhi. And then
Has he been to Whitefield?
this morning he's been on the outer ring road and he had his glimpse of Bengaluru. Every day we've been going to different places. Yes. So the way today's interaction works, and we are hoping that we can stick to time. We have to end by 6:15. There are other programs planned in the center. And the first 10 to 12 minutes, Felipe will tell us the story of Bogota. And then Ravi, founder of BIC, sitting right here, many of you know him, Ravi Chanda, has been involved with mobility in Bangalore and governance in urban governance in Bangalore for many, many years. Who better than Ravi to speak to Felipe? They will have a conversation for about 20 minutes, and then the rest of the 30 to 40 minutes is for all of you, for our discussion. So that's the plan for today's session. Any questions before we start? All right, over to you.
Thank you so much for having me here and for this great introduction, and thank you so much for everyone to come in a Friday and holiday. This means a lot, and I really think that's the way we can build our cities, with passionate people that really like these topics and like to discuss on this. And also, I already see some familiar faces during these days that we have been walking and talking and many things around the city. So this is a picture of Bogota. Bogota, it's a 10 million inhabitants city, a bit more. Some says that we have a bit more. As here, the census don't tell always the truth exactly and how many people we have. But definitely it's a big, big city with a lot of congestion and a lot of problems that we have been trying to solve and that we have been trying to work on them from the institutions and from different entities all around the world in order to solve these situations. I would like to start with this slide. This is something that I like to put in all my conferences because this, I think, summarizes very well what I think about transportation in our cities. How we have to design our cities. It's all contained in this slide. So if we design cities for children and elders, then we have everyone in the middle, and we should be able to ask our governments or our designers to be able to provide something that works for everyone. If we don't take into account everyone, then we cannot have a real city. And then this slide is also showing that we are all pedestrians at some point in our life. And that's very important. That's very, very, very important, because actually, even with those numbers that we were discussing before, if we are all pedestrians, then we have 100% of people that at some point should use pedestrian paths. And it doesn't matter if it's a disabled people, if it doesn't matter if it's a child, if it doesn't matter if it's a woman who is pregnant, we all need to have a suitable place where we can walk and where we can get to the place we are going. And then, of course, we have a lot of transport modes, and that's a big challenge that we have. How do we do to design our streets, complete streets, where we can have all transport modes together and try to reduce the crashes, the problems that we have. I hate to use the word accident because it's are not accidents, but I haven't found the word exactly in English. In Spanish, I know the exact word that I use for these crashes, and how we do to design from facade to facade in order to have a street where everyone can be. What we have right now is actually something that is not going there. We don't have space for people who is in bicycles, we don't have enough space for pedestrians, as I mentioned before, or for public transport system. And why I emphasize in these three ones? Because actually those three are the sustainable ones, not the others. We have to work mainly for those ones. Let me go a little bit more in detail into what happens in Bogota. So, as Sri was mentioning, we have the Secretary for Mobility. That Secretary for Mobility in Bogota, it's somehow the head of transport. We have these six entities in the city, one in charge of the infrastructure, one in charge of the bus system, both bus systems. I will explain that because we have two different bus systems, the BRT and the urban system. The Metro of Bogota, La Rolita, which is a new operator, which is public operator, UMB, which is the one that is in charge of the maintenance of the roads, and then the short, medium, and large distance travels from the city to other cities in the country. This is very important because actually that head of transport is in charge of solving any problem that is within these entities. It's in charge, it doesn't have the budget of the entities itself, but it helps to solve anything that is happening. And why I mention this? Because institutions should be very strong in our cities. We need to build within our institutions, otherwise it's not possible to solve these kind of problems, to have conversations of a high level, and to be able to rely on our technicians in our institutions. And my background, as Sri say, it's as a technical person. I am a civil engineer, an industrial engineer, I have a master in engineering, and then I did a master in urban planning. But I realized at some point that if I wanted to speak with other people, I had to understand what people was telling me, and not think that I had the reason of everything, and I had to listen a bit more what people was needing in our cities. So from that perspective, actually, I think these institutions are working. And if you ask me, here I'm missing much more information, because what we have to do here is actually on the same level to connect with the Secretary of Women, to connect with the Secretary of Environment, in order to have a very more holistic perspective of what we want in our cities. This is a map of what's happening in Bogota. What we have there is actually, so the city, it's unfortunately divided in socioeconomic stratus. We call them stratus. It means that we divide our city on how much money people have, which is a shame. But it's just to show you where the poorest areas are. So the blue, yellow, and red areas are the poorest one. As you can see, that's probably 80% of the city. And then the richest areas are the ones on green, orange, and yellow. Well, green, orange, and greener. This is how the city moves, and you can tell from what I just showed you how the city moves, because of course the poorest areas are the ones that are moving always to the city center, to the richest areas where we have the CBD, where the richest people live. And then this is what happens during the morning, and this is what happens during the afternoon. This is the destination in the morning, but the origins in the afternoon. So people is going back home from the city center to the other areas. This is how Bogota looks like 20 years ago. This is how Bogota is looking like during the last years with the BRT system. And these are some numbers that are showing what Bogota has right now. I don't want to stop much here. I just want to emphasize something very relevant for Bogota. So these numbers that you are seeing there are after pandemic. Actually, they are reaching already the numbers before pandemic. So actually, these ones are increasing. But something very, very important here, as you can see, 2,500 buses can move almost the same amount of people as almost 9,000 or 10,000 buses. This is because the exclusive lanes are much more efficient to move people, of course, and this makes that we have a more velocity and that we are able to move in a more efficient way our users. We have a cable car, 163 cars, and we have a bike parking. This slide is just to show you some of the infrastructure we have. The gray lines are showing you what we have already. And the other ones, the spots are depots, and the red lines are new BRT lanes that we are building. The the blue line, that one is the first metro line that we are going to have. The green lines that you saw that appear right after that one are trams that we are building right now. This just to show you something that I want to emphasize during this conversation. There is no silver bullet. We cannot rely on just one transport mode. We cannot think that actually there is a big discussion here and all around the world, and this is something I really want to work on. Do we need BRT? Do we need metro? We hate one, we love the other. Actually, I think that's not the discussion that we have to be working on. We have to understand that what we really need, it's a city with more pedestrian paths, with more bicycle paths, and with more public transport system. That's what we need. The outcome, or what we are going to use, what transport mode we're going to use, actually we have to rely on the technicals. We have to ask them to build transport models that let us know what exactly is what we are needing right now and what kind of lines we are building in our cities. This just to show you the network that we have in Bogotá in terms of bicycles. This is bike lanes bicycle lanes in the city. We have 590 kilometers, and as you can see there, we are going to build 499 kilometers during the next years. Here, to emphasize a little bit on the same that you were discussing, you can see the poorest people, 1, 2, and 3. They are moving mainly walking, bicycles, and public transport system. Those are the blue, red, and yellow. And then the richest are the ones that are moving more in cars. If you ask me, 85%, as you can see the numbers down here, are showing that 85%, around 85% of people, actually it's moving in this sustainable transport system. My question always in the city, and I think we have learned on that a lot, is if 85% of people is walking, using their bikes and using public transport system, then why the budget should go for cars? Why should we put the budget where actually we are not helping the biggest amount of people? What we are called as public servers is actually to help majority, right? Most of people. So we cannot put the money where they are not. And public transport system, biking and walking is what people is doing the most. I'll finish very close. Yeah. Bogotá has the biggest fleet of electric buses outside China of any city, 1,485 electric buses. There are a lot of cities that will actually go better than that number, but it's a very important number. I think it's helping to shape a lot what is happening in the world. This is what has been happening in the city in terms of particulate matter, how the red line shows the forecast if nothing was done, and the green line is showing what we achieved now that we have replaced most of the fleet of the city. And this is just to show you what challenge we achieved: connection between entities for regulation at local and national level, linkage between main stakeholders of construction, automotive, and energy and technology sectors. That's things that we were working on in order to be able to have these electric cars. Some myths that we faced this. We did this almost 2 or 3 years ago, so we're facing some myths. As you may know, Bogotá is a very hilly city, so electric buses lack of necessary autonomy. Electric bus operation is limited by higher slopes. Electric buses are more expensive to buy. So we had to work on all this, and actually we managed. That's why we have right now that fleet that is already running in the city. And some facts are actually that we reduce operation cost. There are no cases of dead battery while in transit, and we have a greater social, and we've found a greater social and environment benefits. And the last one is in terms of future challenges. Finding providers for different types of electric vehicles is a big challenge for our city. There is not, it's quite difficult to find that, and actually it's very important for us in order to be able to reduce the cost of what we have in the city. Right now in India, you have a big opportunity, and actually you are getting use of that already. So you are a market itself. India is so big that you were able to come with different states and organize procurement of 5,000 buses, which is already there, and you're going for 50,000 now. That's something that from WR we are helping, and we are very proud of being part of that. Pioneering in the use of new electric technologies, first and last mile solutions, mobility as a service. I really think that it's something that can help our cities, because everything is about quality of service and how we reduce not just time travel, but actually what costs the most for people, which is waiting time and transfer time. How we are able to reduce that and to make a system that it's reliable for people in order to be used for them. And then the business model. I close here because I know we will have a very nice discussion, so I can tell you a bit more on examples on how I think that quality of service should be in our cities and what we are looking for. Thank you so much. Should we?
Thank you, Felipe, for that brief introduction. And how many of you here are familiar with this whole BRTS, Bus Rapid Transport System? Can we have a show of hands? It's less than a third of the group. So I think it might be a logical place to quickly start, because one keeps hearing this alphabet soup BRTS. So if you could just give an overview of how Bogotá went down, because just like we have gone and embraced metro as our mass transport solution, you embraced the BRTS as your mass transport solution, and now you're thinking of the metro. So if you could just give them a bird's eye view of the essence of the BRTS operation in terms of dedicated lane, high frequency, and the like, so that the two-thirds who are new to it get a sense of the whole Bogotá experiment before I go ahead.
Yes. So the first I would say is every single strategy within any city starts with political will. So if there is a champion who actually is willing to do something, no matter what, metro, bicycle lanes, BRT, then these things will happen in our cities. The second thing, in terms of the BRT system, we did that because of a financial issue in the city first. Then second, because we found
it was a cheaper option to the metro.
It's cheaper. It's cheaper, definitely. We did that because are more flexible somehow, these buses. So actually the interconnection between corridors is easier. And even when it looks you need more space, actually you're needing less space. You need more space on the ground. But if you compare to what the metro are needing overground or underground, it's actually less space because you can overtake and you can use the same lane for different roads, so express lanes. However, it has also a lot of problems. So if someone wants to riot, actually it's very easy and very vulnerable. Sometimes it's overcrowded because, of course, the metro is faster. So any of the systems have some advantages and some disadvantages. So that's why my discussion is trying to stop, we should do BRT, we should do metro. Actually, I think the combination is what works for our cities.
Good. So essentially, I mean, just in the context of India, the essence of BRTS is to really invest in buses with dedicated lanes is at the heart of it. I think the costs are about a sixth of the metro. and the turnaround time is about 30-35% of the time it takes to build the metro, broadly about. And in India, we had an experiment which we tried in Delhi, which was called off spectacularly. We had this thing that Ahmedabad has a kind of a BRTS. In Karnataka, in Hubli, Dharwad, it took longer than expected, but there is some level of BRTS. Bangalore, there was a discussion of BRTS on the outer ring road, but we lost out to the metro. So there was a meeting of which I was also a part of on the side of doing the BRT up to Hebbal on the outer ring road. But the metro, which was actually promised by this year, was the one that won out in that discussion, just by way of said. So I like the fact, Felipe, that you mentioned that it's not about being married to the BRTS or the metro, but it's a question. So let's go to the basic essence, which is about moving people over moving vehicles. Now, in the context of Bogotá or international experiences that you have seen, how do people make the case that let's focus on this? I mean, sustainable mobility, all that is fine, but at the end of the day, it really is a focus on moving people safely, faster. So how have and how did Bogotá get this conversation mainstreamed in the population?
So this started 20 years ago. There were many discussions on what we should be doing. It started in a corridor where actually we were having some stations already, and those stations were not working. Actually, the picture that I show you, it's very close to that main road that I'm saying, but it looked pretty similar to that one. Full of buses, no one can ever move. So when Transmilenio started, it showed very quick that you were able to replace a lot of cars with bigger buses and move more efficiently people. And actually something very important that it's always in the discussion with communities, it's you will take one lane from cars. Why would you do that? And actually what happens when you take a lane and split transport modes is that you are reducing the conflict between transport modes, and you can gain a lot of speed doing that. So actually what I have seen here, most of the traffic, if today, at least in a public holiday, comes from the conflict between autos, between cars, between motorcycles, and that it's something that if we are able to organize our cities, our roads, help a lot. So that was the first stage. However, I have to say, and as I mentioned, there is no silver bullet. And there has been a lot of discussions, a lot of political discussions in Bogotá, as the ones that actually are happening right now. So we are facing exactly the same conversation that you are having. Is the BRT better? Is the metro better? Actually, to go further, some say we cannot build overground metros. They should be underground because actually capacity of overground metros is less than the underground, which is a complete lie. But this is the kind of discussions that we are having in terms of the political stage. So that's why I always discuss, and I like to be in these two worlds, on the political side, but also on the technical side. That's my discussion always with politicians, telling them we need to embrace our technical side and let them help us with numbers to decide. Otherwise, it's very difficult.
So talking of numbers, these origin destination studies, like you represented what's happening in the morning and evening, I'm sure that was done at the very outset to help you plan the network. So what is the importance? Because I don't know, in the few days you've been here, have you asked around whether we have data on origin and destination studies? I mean, Srini tells me it's a 1 crore trip. I don't know where he plucked that figure from. Did you come across any sense that we are on top of the kind of data that is required to fix the problem?
So I have had the discussion. Yeah, this is better now. I have had the discussion on with different people, not just in WRIs, in the university, in the Indian Institute of Science, and I have seen already projects working in the city, and I have to say I am amazed on the quality of data you already have, on the quality of knowledge you already have within students, within people who's working on this. So I think organizing more of that will rely on better.
And these would be people outside
outcomes.
of government.
Yes, but you know what? One specific meeting that we had yesterday. What's the name of the last meeting? The ULT. I
Dr.
think,
Manjula.
yes, I think that institution is, especially that one, really has a lot of technical people working, super committed, you know, and the more, I'm pretty sure the more I explore here in Bangalore, I will find out that there is more and more and more people. These discussions take time.
Right.
These discussions are not easy within our cities. But I'm pretty sure, and what I have seen is you have the knowledge. However, I have to say, yes, in Bogotá, what I have seen is that we are absolutely organized in terms of the data we are providing, what kind of studies we need in the city. But also, let me tell you, during the pandemic, a very important lesson that I had is me being a technical person. You know, I already told you my background. The mayor was asking me, hey, we need this. I was asking my team, please provide me some data. And they told me, hey, we need 2 weeks. It's the pandemic. We have hours. So I had to make decisions within my knowledge, and that was it. So sometimes it's needed to do that kind of things, and sometimes that's why we need people actually on the head, on the top level, on the lower levels in our institutions to be very strong in the technical side.
So what I hear from you is 2 key requirements. One is the political will to make this change, and the second one is the capacity in terms of technical and capabilities to be able to pull off that change. 2 more questions on the BRTS before I come to what we can do in Bangalore with lessons from overseas. So when the BRTS, which was the first year when the BRTS thinking happened, roughly which year was it? We are now in 2023. Which year did the BRTS thinking start in Bogotá?
It started 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
Around that time.
2000.
So
23 years ago.
I'm curious about one thing. At the outset, was the entire network in a sense planned out and then you did it in stages? Or did you do piecemeal, incremental and start? Where was the start point?
That's a great question, yes. So we planned the network, the whole network. It was planned 380 kilometers actually. And from what we have now, you can tell the discussions that we have had have been really difficult. We have only 114 kilometers right
Correct.
now. So that's why we are trying to complete our network now with more modes. But from the very beginning, we knew that the network that we had to do was something around 380 kilometers.
This is great to know because in Bangalore, just as a data point, we started with a 5-kilometer, I keep calling it a toy train, from a place called Baipanhalli to MG Road, because they just wanted to get something going. And today we are left with a situation where on MG Road, the interchange is between 2 levels underground and 2 levels overground, because we never thought of the 380-kilometer network. And I just wanted to drive home that point, the importance of thinking network at the outset.
So that's really important. What people penalize the most, it's waiting time and transfer time. If we are not able to provide a network, we cannot ask people to come to the public transport system. If we are not able to make it reliable, we cannot ask people to come to the transport system. So this is one of the examples that I told you I wanted to give you. 2 days ago, I had an interview, and I asked I was the one who was supposed to be in the interview, but I asked the interviewer what transport mode he used, and he told me I had to use the taxi. But I wanted to use the public transport system. The problem was that I was not sure if I was going to arrive on time because I didn't know when the bus was coming, when the metro was going to be. So the answer to that is reliability. If he that was willing to use it would know from the very beginning of his trip what was going to happen, then we had not missed that person on the public transport system. That would be a public transport trip. So these kind of things have to change, of course, because if our systems are not reliable, if people have to commute and do transfer times with a lot of time and the network is not well thinked, then we have a problem.
So you've got to have that larger network, transfer time and the like, so that reliability is there. So from the last question regarding Bogotá, there's a huge behavioral change requirement of people to move them from their traditional mode, which could be a motorbike, scooter, or a car, to the bus system. what were the special efforts that were mounted to get mass public change thinking? Because I have heard one story about Bogota, which I'll check with you, but what were the instruments that they were used, and what did the leadership, are they the ones who went out and talked the market up for buses?
Well, I have to say, and you saw the graph, actually most of our rich people still moves in cars. So yes, we did some to change, but not all of them. If I may say, the best way to do this is actually work with the youngest. Try to teach them from the very beginning what to do, and that's gonna remain on their heads, and that's gonna help a lot. There is, just to give you an example of something that I think really work in Bogota, we have one route going from one of the most richest part of the city, non-stopping, direct to the universities. There was no way, no other transport mode that could compete with that.
Right, it was the best option.
Yeah, that was the best option. That was express lane on the BRT system, going from the north of the city, one of the richest area, to the universities. These people now, I'm pretty sure they know they want public transport systems, and they love to use sustainable transport modes. And then the second example that I will give you in Bogota is that we have worked for years now. 1976 was the first time we had the ciclovia, we call it ciclovia. It's every Sunday we close most of the streets in the city for people to do sports, bicycles, running.
What's called open streets out here, which is being tried.
So it happens every Sunday from 1976. So it's like a lot of years telling people this is something that we want to give you as government, that you deserve, that the public space is for you to enjoy it, not for cars, and we wanted to give it back to you.
In fact, Cyclovia, I just want to mention, it's another huge success story apart from the BRTS. And roughly, out of a city of 10 million, 6 to 7 million come on the roads. And almost 60% of the road network is made available to them on that day. And for the vehicles, they make the one way, they make it two ways, and vehicles will still move around, but they hand over almost 60% of the city to the citizens to really come out and enjoy. The other quick story, which I think might be interesting, and you need to tell me if it's true or not, because I heard it, I believe the mayor of Bogota said it when he was in Chennai. He said to get people to move to buses in one of the crowded areas, he used to get the kids to play football on the streets and tell the kids that if you see a bus coming, and this is before BRTS, if you see a bus coming, give way to allow the bus to go through. But if you see private vehicles coming, keep playing football, let them wait for a while. And after some time, I'm told, people said, oh my God, I'm going there, the kids are going to be there, it's better I take the bus. Then they experienced the bus and they said, hey, this is much better than what I expected. Is this a true story?
I had never heard about that one, but it sounds like a true story. If I tell you, that's something that we try to do very hard in Bogota. So every time there is a riot, every time there is something happening in our streets, we prioritize buses over anything. So what we ask people is actually to protect the buses. Why? Because what we tell people, if you're rioting, it's actually for the rights of people, right? And normally rights of people are related to more vulnerable people. So if you are stopping the buses, you are stopping the more vulnerable. So you're doing nothing. So try to let the buses go and run, otherwise we are having problems. I have to say nothing is perfect. So in 2021, when I was the CEO of Transmilenio, and there was the third wave of the COVID, we faced the worst riots in the city. And unfortunately, they destroyed 80% of the infrastructure in the city. So every day I had 600,000 people walking on the streets, and then we had to reinvent ourselves and rebuild the whole system.
You mentioned vulnerability. The pedestrian, as you also said in your talk, are the most vulnerable, accidents, fatalities. And most people don't think of pedestrian as being a walking mode, transport mode, even though all of us are pedestrians. So the pedestrian network of footpath and last mile connectivity, etc., you had a lot of agencies out there. Whose responsibility is it to make sure that you have that last mile connectivity and quality footpaths?
So the main responsibility is actually of the head of transport. The Secretary of Mobility has pedestrians and bicycles, and then the other entities are in charge of building. They are just the infrastructure builders, hire the contractors and everything. And I have to say it's very tough. I have to say it's not easy to have these conversations with community. Hey, I'm taking one lane from your road and I'm using it for sustainable transport. Sometimes these conversations are very difficult, but we have been able to build some low emission zones and work that with communities, and the outcomes are amazing.
Right. So now moving on to Bangalore. So BRTS, I'm as someone who's been working in the system for over 2 decades and been part of these conversations, the bad news is we have missed that bus. That ship has sailed, whatever you want to call the metaphor, because with the embracing of the metro and the private vehicle, there's a different model that we have selected. What I want to ask you is, there's been experiments at doing bus lanes in lieu of BRTS, and they tried it on the outer ring road. Of course, with the metro construction, that has been given a go-by right now. But one of the things that happens is the vehicle owners resent that empty lane because the buses are not moving back to back. There is a 5-minute gap and that lane looks empty. And actually you're moving finally more people, but you're in this jam. How do you overcome a problem where people get to understand that it doesn't matter that the lane is empty, but in reality you're moving more people through that lane than you would ever move with private vehicles?
So with the BRT has been, let's say, more or less easy, because when we design a BRT, we design the complete street. So what we give back to community is actually the whole thing,
Right.
from facade to facade. So walking paths, bicycle paths, new roads,
Private vehicle
like
paths.
BRT. So it's easy. But that discussion, it's actually happening right now with the bicycle lanes, and it's a shame. So actually our answer always to that is, you are part of the congestion. The reason you are seeing that is because what they say is, you see there's no one here, and our answer is, you see no one is because that's so efficient that actually they are going, and if we count, there are more people passing by than what you're seeing on the congestion, and actually it's more efficient. So that's our answer always. And we, in terms of BRT, we always use this image of, I don't know if you have seen it, one bus but without the car. We put the people, how many people is there, the cars without the cars, but what distance it will take.
We have seen that image.
Yes, so we use it a lot to tell people, yes, but look, yes, but so the discussion is really tough, I have to say. It's like everywhere. But
So moving to the multimodal, you have the metro bus, some 2,500 buses. I'm interested in that. So are these buses, the non-BRTS, partly feeder, partly going into the suburbs and the like, are they one size fits all, or are they different sizes? What is the nature of that bus system?
we have mainly two types, 9 meters and 12 meters. However, we're needing some other that are smaller, and this actually depends on the infrastructure that the city has. There are some areas where these buses cannot turn,
Yes.
so we need the smaller ones. But it's more because of that. But if your question is more on the technical side, I would say the less types you have, the more efficient you are. When you have a lot of types of buses, you are sending a wrong message to people, because when you have smaller buses, you're able to have better headways,
Right.
or frequency. But if you have a bunch of different types, the problem is that you cannot offer the same quality of service, so people is expecting something that you cannot offer in the reality.
No, of course, your pictures, they're limited pictures, but I'm sure that, because given 10 million and the kind of city Bogotá is, there must be lots of areas where it's a 2-lane road, narrow roads and the like. How do you manage that? Because Bangalore's one of our biggest challenges is our road infrastructure is stressed. I mean, the number of 6-lane roads that we have got in the city, we could count on our fingertips. So it's predominantly 4-lane, and therefore the ability to, sharing it with so many different kinds of vehicles is our challenge. Does Bogota have a similar problem, and how do you fix that?
Yeah, well, there are several problems within this, and then how you say that, the money you have to put, the resources you have to look for, depends on the kind of project you want to do. So sometimes these projects need to buy some land, additional land, in order to be able to put that on the streets. Hopefully you buy enough land to also protect trees in your city. And also, of course, you have to be careful on how you, if you're moving people from one of these houses that you have to buy in order to be able to build the infrastructure where you're going to relocate these people. So it has to be a very holistic project. However, there are some other projects which I like more, where you move cars from the street and you give that space to pedestrians, to the public transport system, and to the bicycles. People think sometimes that I'm crazy, but I'm not. This is working in many cities. And there are two really nice examples where, again, have not been easy in Bogota, but one of the main streets in the city, we are going to build the metro, we have the BRT, and then the cars will be able just to use the street as an emergency street. So they can enter 2 blocks and then go out. Yeah. Enter 2 blocks and then go out. And people is really mad, I have to say that. Community is not liking the government right now. But these kind of tough decisions have to be made sometimes.
Here, of course, the cars and the bikes like to take the footpath space. You're talking about the other one. So we have a slightly inverted. Last question before I throw it open to the audience because we need more engagement. You know, you mentioned about these various departments carrying their own budgets in the sense of, but why would they listen to the person at the top unless that person also controls the purse strings of budgets and allocations? This is my hypothesis is, if the person at the top trying to get sustainable mobility and different people to play their respective parts, whether it is be footpath or buses or whatever, why would they listen if you don't control their budgets?
First, it's a mayor mandate. Second, there are documents that said when this person can tell you what to do and when,
you have to do
when
it.
They are not, when they cannot. You don't have to do what is not on those documents because, of course, it's very difficult. So the most difficult part, and this is something very important, being part of a government, it's really difficult, at least from my experience. Why? Because it's your name, it's your signature, what you are using, and there is a lot of people telling you what you have to do. A lot of experts, a lot of community, your 20 bosses that you have, everyone is telling you what you have to do. And then, anyway, you are the one who is signing, making decisions, and then responding with your name for what you did. So it's very difficult. So there are things that are within the budget that you can tell, hey, no, this is my decision, but there are some others that are not. As for example, if there is a discussion between the metro and the bus system in terms of which roads one or the other has to have, that's something that is over them, and actually it's on the secretary. But if it's something related to how many buses do I have to buy, then the secretary has nothing to say there. That's the technical people on Transmilenio can do that. So it's just to divide in the proper way the processes. And then, anyway, if there is another discussion that looks not to be in those documents, there is another instance where you can go and ask how to solve it. And that instance is also within the mayor office, and it's the lawyers that she has. Right now we have a woman in the mayor office. The lawyers that she has help you to solve who has to do what. But this is all in documents and are processes that are very clear for all.
And people follow those rules.
We have to, otherwise we are in trouble.
That's good to
hear. Yeah, it's something that we want, but also we have to.
You know, here Srini has been the architect of a thing called double the buses, reduce the fares by half. You know, that's been a thing which has never been, we've been stuck at 6,000, 6,500. As a technical person, do you see that there is scope through route optimization and doing those kind of studies to be able to manage your fleet a lot better? And this whole thing about direction-oriented bus systems over destination-oriented bus systems, is there enough leeway to improve things through doing that, while of course adding buses smartly?
Definitely. Well, first, definitely you need more buses. Otherwise, it's very difficult.
Your number today is 15,000. We'll all take a copy and send it to our Vedant Sauda. 15,000 buses is what you have recommended.
Well, I have to say on that question, I first said that's a very difficult question to answer if I don't have a transport model. But if you ask me for the size of the city, I would say that would be around 15,000, 16,000. But it's a difficult number to say, you know. You need a transport model for having that number. But then you already answer actually the question that you are asking me. Network. What's the network you have? And then you can see you can really optimize that. So definitely there are so much things to do in terms of what kind of roads you have, how to connect people who is actually going on the metro and they want to go somewhere else. Is someone already thinking on how the transfer is happening there? Or is that people waiting hours for the transfer and taking another bus?
Got it.
What's the main destination of that people? How to connect those dots? And then you start realizing that the metro will not solve the whole thing. Our metro, the first line that we're building, is going to solve 5% of the people, of the population that we have. Just 5%. So actually this
It's
is
not very different here either at this point of time. So.
This is a great example that I have. I was in it was another conference, but a stage where we were showing the program of the mayor office, and it was like, I don't know, 200 people. There was one guy specifically that was yelling at me and yelling and yelling, and he didn't let me talk. So I replied to him and asked him, "Tell me where you live." So he explained me he was living in the north side of the city. What he was yelling actually was, "We want metro. We don't want you to talk about anything else than metro. We just want metro. We don't want more buses. We just want metro." And then when he told me where he lived, I told him, "You know what? The city has never planned to have a metro there yet. I don't know in the future, but yet we don't have money and the metro line is not going to be there. So why are you yelling for that?" And then he said, "Okay, explain me." And I told him, "Okay, what you need is more transport modes. Let me know where you live, you need to be connected, where are you going, and then we can build from there. And then maybe we can have a specific road that fits the BRT system or which can take you near to the metro station. I don't know, but your solution, it's completely different." So actually sometimes people ask for things that are not even going to help them.
Right.
It's like when, and I think it also happens here. So people who don't have car, they ask for more roads. And it's like, that's aspirational, and that's a problem of our cities, that actually people is looking for more cars, but they don't even have a car. They don't ask for what they are needing right now, which is public transport system, but when you tell them, we are not building more roads, then they say, "Oh no, we need more roads." No, you need more public transport system. You don't need more roads.
So basically we need more modes and multi-modes to actually find appropriate solutions. There's suburban rail we didn't get to. Now it's question time and we'd like to get, so a lot of hands on this side has gone up. So
Keep the questions very brief and keep the answers very, very brief.
oh my God, Naresh and Murli, there are people I know who have to get the mic.
I'm very bad of talking short.
Once again, can we have Naresh? He has the years of the powers that be, so we'll give him the mic first.
I have worked twice already in the city with Naresh.
I've been showing him all the stuff that we're doing anyway. Only one quick question. Did you have the same political party in power for the past 20 years, or do they keep changing how often do they change? And how do you ensure that when it changes, the system is written in stone? How do you make sure they don't keep changing the priorities?
So,
Take two more questions.
No. I'll come to you, Murli. I'll come to you. Yeah.
My question is about the population of Bogotá. How much?
Yeah.
So, is the population of Bogotá growing or shrinking, or has it remained constant? And how many people commute from outside of Bogotá inside?
So you can take these two questions and then.
These two.
These two.
All right.
So same political party was
So
referred.
political parties, actually, no, it has changed during the last 25 years, like 2 or 3 times, or even more. I don't really know. And actually, within the political parties, just saying that if they were 2, but actually there are, in Bogota, we have like
Coalition.
right, center right, even more right, center, center
Left,
You know, like we
left,
have
left,
like
extreme.
a lot of political parties. And it have changed a lot of times. I have to say something that I really like about Bogota is that I know most of the Secretary of Mobility that have been there, most of the people who works in transport. We are like a small community somehow, and we all think alike. And actually, the decisions are not. We are not making decisions related to the political party, but on the technical side. That's the first thing to say. However, not everything is, I don't know if this is an expression in English, but rose color. There are a lot of discussions that are more in terms of this should be public or private, these kind of discussions, but we have been sorting out that and trying to evolve and understanding that actually our contracts are not written in stone, but we have to evolve in order to have something better every time.
So population, I think it
Second
went from
question.
8 million to 10
Population,
million.
we are right now around 10 million, and it's growing really fast. Lot of people is moving from outside the cities to the cities in Colombia still. So it's very similar to what happens here.
Next question.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Pavan. So I am curious about to what extent did decentralization of the transport authority help for Bogota? Because there's a lot of debate in India about centralization and decentralization of the transport administration. And how did that help Bogota achieve that?
I would say the authority.
Give it to Murli. Yeah.
Thank you.
The lady, you want to ask? Okay, give Murli.
My name is Muralidhar Rao. I have, in fact, tweeted on your subject, which appeared in Deccan Herald. Most of the points I have made out there itself. Now, yesterday's newspaper, there are videos of Hema Malini traveling in Mumbai on the metro. So it is not as if people, even the richest, and she's an MP and she's a very well-to-do person, and so even people of her stature have no problem traveling in public transport. So if there is good, efficient public transport, and now that is where the problem lies. Now, there was a mention that Ravi mentioned there are 6,000 of BMTC buses. Actually, on Bangalore city roads, there are 50,000 buses. There is a Citizen Matters report which said that there are 50,000 buses. Now,
bus operators.
the buses which are not non-BMTC, that is the bus service organization, they are all registered as contract carriages, which means they cannot run as proper bus services. Now, if these were deployed properly, we have a solution to the problem. That's all there is. Thank you.
One more, take one. In the back, please.
So it's really a comment saying that actually the buses are there. It's a question of bringing it onto the system.
I actually had a similar point. I was wondering, I know that in Santiago in Chile, they had a system until 2007 that allowed private bus operators to run buses throughout the city, and then they moved to a more centralized model, and that caused chaos in the system. So I was wondering, what is the role of markets in public transport, enabling and allowing private providers to provide bus services as well?
So private versus public. Could you take that question? Let him take it.
Yeah, decentralization. I think we are not decentralized in Bogota, actually. We are moving towards that. And when I say decentralized, is not this division between the entities, but actually how we are geographically divided in the city. And that's something we want to do, have more like a small secretaries of mobility within different localities, as we call our wards there, and to try to help more on the ground what things are happening. But I really think decentralizing the authorities is very important.
And private public.
I think there are two different questions there. The first, how to go with informality. And I think there is no right question, the right answer, sorry. A lot of cities have tried to formalize everything, and I think that's not the right way to go, because actually there is so much happening in between. Bogota is one of those. We try to formalize our informality It took us 15 years. I finished before coming to WRI. That was part of my last thing that I did in Bogota. It was hurtful and difficult and all what you can imagine because of social issues with the drivers that were in the informal part. But anyway, and then it's also costly now. But I think cities have to understand what exactly they want and not copy other systems. What happened in Transantiago is actually that they tried to do this transition very quick, within 2 days actually. So that was the chaos that happened there. And from there, the system never come back. So two different stories, because the transition can be done, but you have to think how to do the transition.
So right now, is it government operated or is it private operated?
The government has the whole thing, but we contract privates, so we're giving concession to privates. But we have one public operator, which is La Rolita, which I show you there. That one is public, so we are trying to have a mix. Some operators private, some operators public, but then the main company, it's a public company, which is Transmillennium.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we come this side.
Two brief questions. One, has Bogota tried a congestion pricing scheme? Number one.
Congestion
Number
pricing.
two, has Bogota tried the congestion pricing scheme?
Yeah, we heard you.
Number two, is there a parking policy? And how are the parking charges determined?
Pass the mic, please. Somebody asked about flyovers.
No, one second. But there's a lady there. I want that lady to ask a question.
After this back.
Yeah, Manmohan.
These things are more in the nature of comments. One of the things I noticed in your slides is that you had low-floor buses. Now, these low-floor buses, and this is your very first slide, you showed people of different kinds. Now, in India, most of the buses are built on truck chassis. So, very difficult to get in and out of, takes a long time, etc. The other thing is, if you exclude electric buses, maintenance of buses and simple things like changing the lubricating oil, changing the filters, makes such a tremendous difference as far as pollution as well as fuel consumption and power, etc. And I don't know how much importance is given in cities like Bogota. I know that in Curitiba, where these bus things were first, the very first thing they did was low-floor buses, plus at the bus stations there was an elevation, so people could get in and out quickly.
Yeah.
Back behind you.
One last question this side, then we go there.
Yeah. I want to know, cycling you mentioned. I recently discovered the electric cycle and it's bliss. Why don't people push more for cycling? And in Bangalore, is there hope for cycling really?
You pass the mic this side. So you got congestion charging.
Oh yeah, congestion charging. Yes, we have something similar that I think you have here as well.
That lady.
How you call?
We don't have congestion.
Yes.
No, we don't have congestion pricing. Is it?
Per. The last number of your plate, you have the same thing. In Delhi. Okay, in Delhi. So it's something similar. What do we have? I call it congestion charging. Why? Because I think that's the very first stage of what I think we have to go now as cities. Not anymore having like small congestion chargings. Maybe some specific city centers could have it, but what we should do is actually charge for the use of our streets in terms of time and distance, no matter where the people is. Technology already allows us to do that. Parking, we have policy for parking. Actually, it's very recent. It only has 2 years. We are still implementing. It's very difficult to implement. Needs a lot of control from the government, unfortunately, because people park wherever they want. And but yes, what we are telling people is actually that's public space, so you have to pay for the use of public space. If you want to use the space that is for everyone, then you pay. And the way to analyze that is actually some models to know exactly how much people is willing to pay right before choosing not to park outside of the road or in the road, something like that.
Then there was a maintenance question. Low floor and
Low-floor
maintenance.
buses. We have both. We have actually 3 types of buses. I completely agree with you. I think the low-floor buses are better for disabled people. However, there are many ways to solve that. We have these high floor buses with some sorts of elevators, and it works perfectly. And then the Transmilenio system actually is 100% accessible, because when you get on the bridges or anything, you are already on a high platform, and you only connect with the bus, and you are already inside, and you have no problem. So we solved that problem with both sides. Both sides. But yes, I would prefer low floor. However, it's something that it can be solved in our cities.
Yes, ma'am. And once again.
Cycling. Does Bangalore have opportunity for cycling? That's the question.
Definitely, you have one of the best opportunities in India. This city is full of trees. You have a city. Yeah, I'm in love with the trees you have. It's a city that can cool down because of the trees. That's all you need. Then you need the infrastructure, and be sure that you build something that it's safe for people. That's going to invite people to use it. Otherwise, people will not come. And that network. If you don't build a network, you just build 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, people won't use that. You need something that is more like origin destiny, and then people will use it. But definitely, Bangalore have a big opportunity.
But safety for the cyclist would be a very important thing,
It's
along with the
super important.
network.
You have to segregate. If you don't segregate,
Come, ma'am.
Hello. I think you touched a little bit on this topic, but like the general population, disabled people use public transportation more than any other type of transportation. So how did you design accessibility into the whole system? I mean, right now we have the electric buses that have the elevator system, as you mentioned, and the metros have a lot of facilities, but the rest of our system is abysmal. So how do we promote this?
Yeah, I'm from the transport department. So I would like to know what is the expenditure that incurred for the operation of your buses? And then what is the revenue fare? I mean to say that fare structure that you have for the passenger. Is there any viability gap funding being done by the government? If so, what is the percentage?
Yeah.
Quick comment, Bangalore has a demand is not an issue, supply is a problem. Even today morning on a holiday, I had to skip 6 buses to get onto one bus with a seat to come to office, just to give you. A quick question, I have traveled in Ahmedabad BRTS, Calcutta tram, Delhi Metro, and Bangalore's bus priority lane. I have a question about tram. Why not tram? Why everybody is prioritizing metro?
I'm just moving forward because we only have 8 minutes left.
Yeah, so I had a question regarding the political will, right? So did you make any specific efforts to make sure that, the elected representatives have the will or get the will to execute such projects? And if the elected representatives are, say, misinformed about some issues, how did you, as a member of the government or through citizen movements, convince them to say that, this is right and what they might be thinking might not be right?
At the end.
So help me on the accessibility. So accessibility, we haven't solved that problem, I have to say. We have a law that says that we have to provide 100%. So anything we buy now, we are replacing with accessible fleet. And also, everything that we build in the city, we have already some manuals that say how to build that in order to be accessible. But we are still working on that, and it's an issue very difficult. We have tried putting some roads specifically for where the hospitals for disabled people are. They have asked, hey, this is the roads that we mainly take, so please help us that those roads are the more accessible, and we are providing that. So we're having this conversation in order to help until we get there where everything is accessible. So we are in constant communication with people who need that. They are not happy, I have to say. But
Second one is about finance for the public transport.
Is there viability gap funding by the government?
Subsidies.
So Bogotá system is subsidized. Before pandemic, it was 30% subsidized by the government, 70% subsidized, fare collection. It changed after the pandemic completely, 70% subsidy, 30% fare. Now that we're going back from pandemic, it's like 50-50. I have to say, governments should put more money on public transport system. My answer to that is always, yes, health system need, education system need this, of course, but if there is no transportation, people cannot access to the health system either. People actually get sick if they don't have a good transport system. So the reason cities should understand that in order to be able to provide a good transport system, they have to put more money. And actually that answer also part of your question or your comment. You were waiting for a bus, for 6 buses. Quality of service is important. If we are not able to provide more money to the public transport system, that's not possible to be solved. You need more buses, and then you can ask people to come to the public transport system. Trams. The reason why trams are not good in our cities is not that they are not good. They are good. The problem is capacity. They have no the capacity. In order of capacity, there is metro, BRT, and then very behind you can find the trams. That's the main problem, because they are good. They are nice systems. The problem is capacity. And then, when you don't have capacity, but you have to put a lot of money in terms of capex, what would you decide? You will put more money where you can move more people and pay less. So capex versus capacity in the trams is actually what prevents cities to use more trams.
Vijayan?
No, there was another question.
Sorry. There was the political will question.
That was a great question. Actually, it's a very difficult one because it's a long story, so I will try to make it very short. Yes, electric buses, not everyone was happy about it. Industry was not happy at all. But what we did was, in terms of the contract, we did a 15 years contract versus diesel and gas with those ones were 10 years. Why this? Because in 15 years, you're able to manage a little bit better the finance and how you pay the loan that you have to ask for buying the buses. Then also in terms of the technical points that we were providing on that procurement, if you were bringing some electrical buses, you were having more chance to win from the technical side. And we support that in terms of climate change, basically. Yeah, and then a lot of discussions happened. Like, it was really tough.
We just have time for 2 questions. Vijayan? And
hi.
Maybe.
Must add that Bogotá on a Sunday is beautiful. I'm not very sure about other days. Sunday, I've been on a Sunday in Bogotá. And
maybe with cyclovia, maybe.
And the question is, BRT, how much of the infrastructure, which means the roadways, were existing roadways, or how much of it had to be newly built or newly modified? And if it was newly modified, was it a question of acquisitions of land? Was that an issue? And if there was acquisitions, how was that handled, and how was displacement handled, if there was?
You can answer that.
Last.
Okay, we'll just take the last 2 questions. And,
Please go.
Yeah, thanks.
You can
So
talk to
my
him after
question
this.
was about the, do you have smart cards which work across multiple modes of transports? And second is, like, especially after the pandemic, the movement patterns of people change. So how do you track that, and how do you adapt your systems with changing, let's say,
Dynamic
OD matrices over time? Thanks.
Your last question.
Sir, and still no one asked about flyovers. I am very Sir, please ask how many flyovers go. You're not giving the chance, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this was about, I have read somewhere that even New York is considering about making city buses 100% free. I don't know what is the status of that, but did you in Bogotá ever considered free city buses? And can it be an alternative? There are so many cities which have offered free city buses.
So we'll answer these questions, and he will still be here, and we can continue the conversation, but we'll bring the session to a close.
How much of the existing road space had to be repurposed or newly built for BRT? That's Vijayan's question.
There are several corridors, some that haven't need to buy land, some others where we have had to buy land. I think we have learned, how you say that, hitting ourselves to the wall so many times. So there are some examples where we displace people in a very bad way, and now we are trying to fit with the, the World Bank standards that says how you should move people if you are having to do that in order to buy land. But we have a lot of examples. There are some big roads where you didn't need to buy land. There are some others where you had to buy land. What we are trying to do now is to buy the less land needed, if possible, and then if you have to do that, think in a really good way how you avoid gentrification and how you can move people in a better way to where they feel something or they have the same status of life that they had before.
Payment, common mobility cards.
A smart card, single card across all.
I don't really get that question.
No, it's a single card which you can use across the entire network.
Yes, and metro and other things.
All right. No, actually, no. Well, there is one dual. We call it dual, that can go on the traffic and then it can go on the exclusive lane. Is that the question?
No, a card. The billing, the swipe card.
Sorry.
So you must be having a single card.
Yes, it's one.
It works across the entire
It's one
network.
card. And we're going
Last
to integrate
question.
that now with the metro.
Free buses.
Free bus.
If he was the mayor, he would do it.
Yeah. There are a lot of places which are proposing that now. Luxembourg, I think, has already done it, but Luxembourg is super rich. It's a good idea, I think. We should go there. Actually, that will prevent a lot of problems that our cities have and save a lot of money on the other hand. But we need to find more funding, otherwise it's impossible. The problem is that the transport systems are very, very expensive. And I would like to add here, there is not such a thing as a profitable transport system. All of them cost. So, and even if the city wants to go for more and more metro, then it's going to be farther away the possibility of having zero.
So thank you. We talk with. So thank you. I mean, we need to bring this session to a close. He will be available. No, he'll be here for 1 more minute. No, Srinivas, 1 minute.
I'm asking a question. How many flyovers does Bogotá have?
No, you have asked already. He's heard it.
Yeah, I have it. So,
Everybody heard. Yeah.
So this is the discussion we had yesterday. That's what he has asking. So we have zero flyovers of those ones that are like long kilometers of flyovers. We only have some small ones in the city, but not those ones that are huge. And we actually hate that. And there have been some proposals of those, but we have said no way to do that in our city.
So, and in closing, the point that he made that no 1 second, please. Afterwards, you speak to him. We are out of time.
No, I wanted this to be an open forum question because they're all thinking it. How do you do quality control? Like across all your roads, your cycle lanes, how do you maintain quality?
That's the institution building he talked about, right?
See, I mean, you need the capacity to do that. He mentioned that at the outset. Political will and the capacity to pull off this entire...
Very short. Actually, if you ask me, the Secretary of Mobility of Bogotá don't need any advice of anyone in terms of bicycle, for example. That's the capacity that we have built there. We have the best engineers thinking on the bicycle within the institution.
Thank you. Sir, please.
No, one suggestion for you, because the time is up. Even I got so many suggestions and this one to be given. I do not want to waste the time here. Please create a group of our this one.
Okay.
So that we can. That is a suggestion.
You know me, I know you. We are already in 14 WhatsApp groups. We will make 15. Thank you very much. I want to thank Ravi and the wonderful team at BIC. All of you in the back working so hard. Thank you so much for all the setup. And it's a very short planned event. And we are so full of hope and energy to see all of you come here, because that itself tells us how much our city is looking for sustainable mobility. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Felipe.